I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
I cannot be defeated, and I will not quit.
Welcome to Rhema Praise, a worldwide broadcast bringing hope, help, and healing for over 25 years from Kenneth Hagin Ministries and Rhema Bible Church in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And now, here are your hosts, Pastors Kenneth and Lynette Hagin.
Hello, welcome once again to Rhema Praise. Glad to have you with us today. Today, Miss Lynette is going to be talking one of her Kindle of the Flame messages, and it's called Be Content in the Here. Now, that's a funny title, but we'll let you go with that. But
yes.
This week is the week of Kindle of Flame. It starts
On Thursday
night. So there's still time to get here. You can still go register online, or you can just walk in and register. You can still get here. It's going to be a great conference. So what in the world are you talking about when you say be content in the here?
Well, you know, so many times, honey, people, they'll have lots of goals that they want to accomplish, which is great. We need to have goals.
Right.
And so, but I found that before those goals are reached, they are discontent with where they are now.
Right.
And it's so important. You know, I think of the path that God has taken us on.
Yeah, it's quite a path.
It's quite a path. And, when we walked up the aisle to the altar,
right,
and the song was being sung, we'll walk the road of life together, day by day. And will I love you every step of the way. And, those steps sometimes, it could have been hard to be content.
Yeah.
And I know some of the places we lived, oh my goodness, they weren't really very nice places,
Hey, I'm just looking around where we're shooting this right here in our studio that we put together. That first garage apartment we lived in it was a 2-car garage turned into an apartment. It wasn't as big as this whole area right here.
No, I mean, we had a bedroom, a kitchen, a living room.
We didn't even have a living room. We had about an 8-foot deal to put a couch, and that's it.
No, I know. But you know what? Because that we knew that we were walking in the will of God for our life.
That's right.
We were content there. We were happy there, knowing that we weren't going to stay there.
Right.
But yet we were content there. So before I just keep on preaching, I guess.
Yeah, you better go preach your sermon.
Let's look at and let's watch the sermon that I preached on Be Content in the Here. But being content in the here. Being content in the here. Tonight I want you to be honest with yourself as I am delivering this message. So many times as ladies, we're not honest with ourselves. We rationalize. We blame others. We pretend to be something that we're not. We sometimes expect others around us to change when it's actually us that needs to do the changing. It's us that needs to do the changing. I want to ask you once again a question. How much time are you concentrating right now on the here? Here. The now. Are you always thinking about the there or the future? So many times, we're not content in the here, so we're not even thinking about the here. We're thinking about, guess what's going to happen? It'll be so much better when we get to the next phase or the next stage or whatever, the next job. And we're not concentrating on right now. As I use so many times, God has a plan for your life. And the thing that the Lord always has me concentrating on, and that is to walk in his perfect will. Let's turn over to Jeremiah 1:5. Jeremiah 1:5. I like this in the Message Bible. It says, before I shaped you in the womb, I knew all about you. Before you saw the light of day, I had holy plans for you. Now, we know that God is not a respecter of persons. He was talking about Jeremiah here, and he told Jeremiah what his plans were. But guess what? If he knew Jeremiah before he was born, if he had holy plans for Jeremiah, don't you think that he knew you before you were born? And he had holy plans for you. He had holy plans for you. Go over to Jeremiah 29:11, one of my favorite scriptures. I'm going to read this in the New Living Translation. Jeremiah 29:11. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. I know the plans that I have for you. They are plans for good and not for disaster. But so many times, in our here season, it looks like that the plans are disastrous, right? I mean, there are times that I have said to God, with all my heart, I trust, and I am trying to follow your plans. And you said they were for good, but they look kind of disastrous right now. God does not mind you being honest. You might as well tell him what you think, because he already knows it anyway. Yeah. He already knows what you're thinking. So it's okay to express it to him. It at least makes you feel good. Yeah, I've told him, God, it's pretty disastrous. But at that moment is the time that he will minister to you. He will give you answers to your questions if you'll just ask. Now let's turn over to Psalm 37:23. These are some of my favorite scriptures. Psalm 37:23, once again in the New Living Translation. The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives. The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives. Now, I like the passion of that. It says, the steps of the God-pursuing ones follow firmly in the footsteps of the Lord, and God delights in every step they take to follow him. Now, God wants to direct your steps, but he can't direct your steps if you don't allow him to. He has given us our own we are a free moral agent. We can will to or will not to follow him, to follow his plans. I like to look at Joshua. Oh my goodness. The assignment that Joshua had. Moses' time was coming to an end, and he had appointed Joshua to lead the children into the promised land. And these were his words of instruction, Moses' words of instruction over in Deuteronomy 31, verse 7. Deuteronomy 31, verse 7. Then Moses called for Joshua, and as all Israel watched, he said to him, be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors he would give them. You are the one who will divide it among them as their grants of land. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. So Joshua was given the instructions, be strong in the Lord. Don't let the words of the Lord leave you. But do you realize that God had prepared Joshua for this many years before? Think about back whenever Moses was sending spies into the promised land. You remember that? And he sent 12 spies. And if you remember that 10 of them came back and they said, oh, well, it's a wonderful land, prosperous land, but there are giants in that land. And there's no way that we can possess the land. We look like grasshoppers in their sight. But guess what? There were 2 men that brought back a good report. That was Caleb and Joshua. And over in Numbers 14:6, I don't know whether I gave you all this or not, but anyway, Numbers 14:6 in the New Living Translation. This is what they said. 2 of the men who had explored the land, Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, tore their clothing because the people were so upset. They said to all the people of Israel, the land we traveled through and explored is a wonderful land. And if the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us safely into that land and give it to us. It's a rich land flowing with milk and honey. Do not rebel against the Lord and don't be afraid of the people of the land. They are only helpless prey to us. They have no protection, but the Lord is with us. Don't be afraid of them. You see, Joshua wasn't concentrating on the there right then. He was concentrating on the here. Here he was in that land. He had no idea that God was preparing him to bring the children of Israel into that promised land. But as he concentrated on the here, God was preparing him for the there. And so the time came, as I said, that Moses said, it's time for me to go, and it's time for you to lead the children in. Now, Joshua had an enormous responsibility. If he was concentrating even on the back, the things that had happened in the past, I'm sure he would have thought, oh my goodness, I remember when we came out of Egypt and then the people started complaining. Well, we're going to die here. You should have left us in Egypt. But no, he wasn't looking at the past. He wasn't looking at the future. He was looking at his here. At his here. And so, over in Joshua 1, and so he only looked at the instructions that God was giving him right then. He wasn't thinking about, what all are we going to have to do to conquer and to get over to the promised land. No, he was honed in on the here. God doesn't give you instructions for the future. He gives you instructions for right now. And he said over in Joshua 1, Verse 10 says, Joshua then commanded the officers of Israel, go through the camp and tell the people to get their provisions ready. In 3 days, you will cross the Jordan River and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you. He said, get the people ready. Get the people ready. And then he told, and here they are. First of all, they're going to have to cross the Jordan. I mean, he could have thought, how are we going to do that? He could have been thinking about the future, but no, he is only honed in on the instructions that God is giving him. He said, get the people ready. Then he said, sanctify them. And he gave them specific instructions as to what to do. And then, of course, as they are following, oh my goodness, the first battle that they had to conquer was Jericho. And he didn't think about all the other battles that they had to conquer, but he was honed in on, okay, God, how do we do this? And the plan seemed ridiculous. So God told him, get the people, march around the walls one time for 6 days, right? And don't say anything. Be quiet. Can you imagine all of those people actually being quiet? I'm sure probably God knew that they would probably be grumbling and complaining. So that's why he told them to be quiet. Sometimes we just need to be quiet and follow God's instructions. So, they marched around one time a day, 6 days. And he said, on the 7th day, march around 7 times. And on the 7th time, then you can shout. And we know what happened. The walls came down. The walls came down. But you see, if Joshua had not concentrated on the here, they would never have gotten to the promised land. So many times in the natural, there's a saying, the grass looks greener on the other side of the field. And yet you get over there, and it's not nearly as green as you thought it was. We look at other people, we look at their jobs. Oh, if I could just be the boss. Oh my goodness. Let me tell you, boss is not fun. Or, even you look at somebody else's spouse. Oh man, I just wish my husband was like theirs. Well, you ought to be with that man 24 hours a day, and you may not think that. Yeah. We go after what we think will make us happy, and then we find out that it doesn't work. Doesn't make us happy. It's like the story of 2 teardrops floating down the river of life. One teardrop said to the other, "Who are you?" "I'm a teardrop from a girl who loved a man and lost him." And that teardrop said, "Well, who are you?" The teardrop said, "I'm a teardrop from the girl who got him." Yeah. For those of you who are married, be content. Yeah. Love your husband for who he is, not for what you want him to be. Why did you marry him if you didn't love him the way he was? Yeah. And when you learn to accept that, you'll be much happier, and I will guarantee you he'll be much happier. There's another story of an airline pilot who was flying over the Tennessee mountains and pointed out a lake to his co-pilot. "See that little lake?" he said. "When I was a kid, I used to sit in a rowboat down there fishing. Every time a plane would fly overhead, I'd look up and wish I was flying it. Now, I look down and wish I was fishing in that rowboat." Contentment cannot be achieved by increasing your possessions or your status. Nothing will ever be enough. We need to embrace the seasons, enjoy the seasons. You know, thinking or wishing about the next season does not cause it to come quicker. I'm going to say that again. Thinking or wishing about the next season does not cause it to come any quicker. We must enjoy our season of here. Our season of here. The Apostle Paul learned that secret. And, I love Philippians. It's one of my favorite books in the Bible. Philippians 4, starting with verse 10. Says, "How I praise the Lord that you are concerned about me again. I know you have always been concerned for me, but you didn't have the chance to help me. Not that I was ever in need, for I have learned how to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I've learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." Paul learned to be content regardless of the situations. He was expressing to the Philippians, he was expressing, their appreciation for him. And yet he said, I'm not dependent upon that. I thank you for it, but, I'm not dependent on that at all. He said, "For I have learned," and I like the King James Version, "for I have learned in whatever state I find myself in, therewith be content." Some of you know the story. I don't have time to tell it, but you know what? I had to literally take this verse, literally. I have learned in whatever state, Oklahoma, I will be content. Literally. God, I am going to be content in Oklahoma. I am going to be content. What does contentment mean? An inner sense of rest or peace from knowing that God is in control of my life. I would encourage you, be content with where God has you right now. He knows your future and He knows what He's preparing you for.
Yes.
So I would encourage you, listen, whatever He's preparing you for now, the best is yet to come. So be content now, and I will tell you what, God is going to do marvelous things for you in the future.
I say this all the time, hon. Learn everything you can in this period, because it's getting you ready for the next period that God's got for you.
Absolutely. You know what, honey, when God was preparing us for coming to Rhema, what He prepared especially you for, you didn't know that you were going to need everything that my dad taught you about building, right? But you didn't complain about it.
No, I just did what I had to do, because that's what I've been taught all my life. And then my dad taught me, son, if it's worth doing right, or don't do it at all. So I never do anything halfway. I do it everything I got. One guy told me one time after I preached, he said, "Well, you didn't have much today." I said, "Well, it's all I had."
That's right.
Listen, we have the offer for the month of the Legacy Bible and my little book, Life of Obedience and Jesus is Coming Again, 3 CDs by Dad, for a gift of $130 or more. Now, that's the offer for all the month, but because this is Kindle the Flame week, we've got a special offer, okay?
That's right.
And she's going to tell you about it right here.
That's right. It's a CD by me and a CD by Denise. My CD is Keep the Fire Burning, and Denise's CD is New Season. So, you know, all of us experience
And that's for
seasons.
a gift of $10 or more.
That's right.
You can get these two this week only. That's the only time that these are all going to be offered like this. Now, those are available at the bookstore. You can go to our online bookstore, but not for that price.
Yeah, so this is the last week for this particular offer.
Yeah.
So don't forget Kindle the Flame, ladies, this week, September the 28th through the 30th. You can register by phone or at the door. Begins Thursday night at 7 p.m. I'm excited. It's going to be
Also, you know, things are just moving along.
That's right.
In fact, in October,
Living Faith conferences.
we're going to be up in Michigan and
Flint.
Illinois.
Yes, Flint Township, Michigan at Genesee Valley Church with Pastors Tony and Kelly Umber. We're excited to be there. We've not been there before.
No, and then we're going over to Sterling, Illinois,
Yes.
to Abiding Word Church, October the
Yes.
18th through the 20th,
Yes.
with Pastor Scott and Terry Porter. And we're excited to go there because we've
You've
never
not
been
been
there
there
before,
either. So, yes, and Rhema College Weekend, October the 20th through the 22nd, right here on the Rhema campus.
Yes. And as we get out of here today, like we always say, we want to thank you for helping us to bring hope, help, and healing to the world.
This month from Kenneth Hagin Ministries, the Prepare Jesus is Coming Again offer, featuring the Kenneth E. Hagin Legacy Bible. All of the lessons in the Legacy Bible are designed to help believers apply a practical operation of faith in their lives, a faith that works. Simple faith precepts as fresh and applicable today as they were when Jesus first taught them. And The Life of Obedience, an anointed slimline book by Kenneth W. Hagin.
We see we're nearer and nearer and nearer to the coming of the Lord. Amen.
Plus, Jesus is Coming Again, a powerful timeless teaching CD series by Kenneth E. Hagin. This amazing offer can be yours today for a gift of only $130 or more by calling toll-free 1-888-PRAISE-8, or you can log on anytime, day or night, at rhema.org to order. For Canadian orders, log on at rhemacanada.org. Thank you for watching Rhema Praise with Kenneth and Lynette Hagin. Kenneth, Lynette, and Rhema Bible Training College are committed to reaching the entire world with the gospel of Jesus Christ and training laborers for the end-time harvest. If you have prayer requests or would like more information about Rhema, please call, write, or visit rhema.org. Thank you for being with us today and for your faithful support. And remember, there is hope, help, and healing for a hurting world.